Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jason from Jadren Aquatics. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. So today we are going to talk about breeding for profit tank. So you ask yourself, Jason, what exactly is a breeding for profit tank? I keep seeing this all the time, but I don't fully understand it. So the idea is that you take a tank, maybe multiple tanks, and you use the things that are in that tank to try to breed them out so that you can try to make a profit off them. Now, making a profit is a difficult term, because if you're going to actually figure in what a profit is, you would then have to take the amount of electricity that was used on that tank, the amount of food that you fed those fish, the amount of water that you did water changes, and what's your time worth? How much time did you spend on this tank? What are you worth per hour? So there's a lot of different factors that go into truly breeding for profit. So we're more or less going to look at it as just a little way to make a little extra money so that you can buy some more fish. How about that? So not necessarily a way to turn it into a business, whereas yes, you could turn it into a business that many people are very successful, and there have been a lot of people that have seriously failed. So let's talk about, first of all, before we get to the tank and see exactly what I'm doing, let's talk about the different ways that you have to move your fish or snails or shrimp or whatever it is that you're breeding. First of all, you got the ability to trade it into your local fish store. So you can go in, trade it into your local fish store. They'll give you credit towards buying something else in most cases, and there'll be a few, if it's something they really want, they may pay you for. This is probably going to be the way that you make the least amount of money possible, because these guys are then going to want to take it and sell it in their store. They're not going to give you quite as much for it. But also, they probably have the ability to buy more from you at a time than maybe selling on whatever platform that you may be selling on. Your next avenue is you selling them. So let's look at selling on Craigslist. So you could take whatever it is that you have for sale, put them on Craigslist. Maybe you've got some other stuff that's in your fish room that you could sell. People come to your fish room to buy the one thing that you have for sale, and they look around and see some other things, and you're able to sell it that way. That's a way where you can get maybe more of a top dollar for the fish or whatever it is that you're trying to sell, but it also is going to involve time of you being here, having to wait for the person to show up. The person may not show up. You never know what you're dealing with on Craigslist. I've had some fantastic experiences, and I've had some not so fantastic experiences. So the next way you could do it is selling on eBay or Aquabid or on getgills.com. And as I mentioned this right now, if you guys have tried to go to Aquabid lately, they're under what's called a DDoS attack. That means they're getting a whole bunch of hits on their server at one time, and it's making it very difficult for people that actually want to be there to do something to get anything accomplished, because it's very hard to reach the server. So they're having some really bad problems right now. So that's another way. You can take your fish, you can list it, but now the problem is you've got to ship it. So now you got to figure out the shipping cost, and the shipping cost is not going to be just the only thing. Again, you can get your boxes for free, but now you're going to have to create some type of styrofoam inside to hold the insulation or hold the heat or the cool in. So you're going to have to buy some type of foam maybe to cut and put in there, or you're going to have to buy some type of insulation to put in there. So you got the cost of that. And if it's really cold outside, you got to have a heat pack, or if it's really hot outside, you're going to have a cool pack. So there's a lot of other added expenses in there, and then you got to tape it, and then you got to ship it, and if you're shipping it priority mail, you never know, depending on where the person is, whether it's going to be $8 or $13, or maybe you can use a flat rate. But there's a lot of kind of unknown factors that are involved in that, selling and shipping online. And you got the ability, there's a lot of Facebook groups that do buying and selling, so you can list them on there. Then there's also a lot of Facebook groups that exist locally, so you can find someone locally. So you're sort of using the same Craigslist idea, but now you're dealing more with fish people, which probably works a little bit better, but again, your audience is much smaller. So that's just a few of the different ways that you can take the things that you have and be able to sell them. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the tanks that I have and what exactly that Jason is currently doing to breed for profit. Okay, so here is the first tank that we're using for breeding for profit. And as you can see, there are a bunch of mystery snails in here. And so mystery snails are one of the things that I absolutely love to sell. Let me tell you why. They're extremely easy to breed. They grow pretty darn fast, and they're extremely easy to ship. Due to the fact that these guys are air breathers, whenever you ship them, you do not have to actually ship them in water. You can actually take these plastic cups. How about I cut and actually show you guys that. Okay, so this is the deli cups that I use. I simply take a piece of paper towel, wet it down, put it in here, put the snails on top, and then put another wet paper towel and put it on top. And then I have a lid that I'll cut some holes out and put it in here, close it up, and then ship it in a box. So again, you've got no water to deal with, and these things they can withstand a lot when shipping. I've had some that have gone like 5 days and still arrived alive with a 36-hour heat pack. And so typically what I do is I sell my snails in assortments. So if you'll look in here, you'll see I've got about 5 different colors. The ones that I most predominantly have are the dark purples, and then I have some more that are kind of pink that look it's really just more of a light purple. And then you'll have some like this guy right here. Those are brown. And then you've got this guy right here, which is ivory. And last but not least, you have blue. Here are a couple of smaller blues. And so whenever I sell them in an assortment of 10. And I typically use between the size of a nickel and a quarter. The purple, since I have more, I usually put 3 or 4 of the quarter size one, and the other ones I'll put some of the smaller size ones in there, and I also usually ship 1 extra. I charge $24.95 for 10 of those, and that includes free shipping, because your shipping is typically, for the most part, about $8.50, because whenever you put this in a box, it weighs about just a tiny bit more than a pound. If they're in an area that's a little farther away, you can't really say farther away, because the USPS has this weird map that determines how much stuff costs to ship. But I think the most that I've ever paid is like $11. So you end up selling your snails, you end up making a profit of about $1.50 a piece. Now again, that doesn't take into consideration all the things I said before, the food, the box, the heat pack. Okay, so if you'll see in here, all these snails are getting pretty big. But if you look on the sides, I've also got a bunch of babies, tiny ones that are only less than a week old. So the way that those guys end up in here, now granted, this tank I do allow them to breed in here, but it doesn't happen too often, because sometimes I keep the water level a little bit too high. But I have another 40-gallon tank down here, and this is where I keep all of my breeding adults. Now you'll see the water is a little bit cloudy. Part of that reason is occasionally I'll have a snail die off in here, and whenever one of these big snails dies off, it causes havoc, because there's so much meat on these things, and it highly pollutes the water. And so I always have to focus on keeping the calcium up in this tank so they have good, strong shells. But if you look, you can see that I keep the water level about 2 inches low, and then you'll see it gets these guys breeding all the time. So you can see a bunch of different egg sacs that are all over the place. So I watch these egg sacs on a daily basis, and when they begin to turn gray and they get mushy, that means those guys are ready to go. So I then take that egg sac, put it up here into this tank, and then I sit there and mush it around like this, soft enough not to break the snails that are in there. Then they all come tumbling to the bottom, and then I will feed this aquarium almost a can of green beans a day to get these guys growing and growing fast. So that is the snail part of making money. The next thing we've got in here, you guys have probably already seen, there are a ton of bristlenose plecostomus in here. I've got a whole bunch of these guys that are growing out. I'm guessing right now there's possibly 200 of these guys. Most all the ones are in here are calicos, but there are a few super reds. Then I also have some albinos that are in another tank that I haven't actually moved in here. So these guys are not actually breeding in this tank. I have the adults breeding in another tank, but whenever they lay eggs, I wait for the father to take care of them, and as soon as they hatch, I'll take them and then I'll remove the babies and put them in this tank, or I've actually got a smaller tank that sometimes I'll kind of grow them out of there and get them about an inch long before I move them in here. And then so I use this as a grow out tank for them. And as everyone knows, you are never going to get stuck with the bristlenose. Everyone wants bristlenoses because these guys are fantastic algae eaters and just do a great job of taking care of your tank. And they're not skittish, and they're out almost all the time, so you actually get to see them and enjoy them. So you'll have no trouble selling these to friends online or trading them in to your local pet store. You'll also see there are some cories in here, some skunk cories. These guys haven't been in there that long. These guys eventually will get to breeding also, and so I'll begin to watch them carefully and begin to remove the eggs and be able to get some cories out of here also. I'm also going to move a strain of guppies in here. I haven't decided which ones. One of the ones that I'm having a lot of luck with right now is in this tank above. Now in this tank above, this actually has my leopard frog plecos in it, and it's also got my Agassiz cory cats. But if you'll look, I've got a ton of these guppies that are growing out. These are the red mosaic dumbos. And these guys, when they become adults, they are absolutely gorgeous as males and as females. So I'm going to pick another strain that I have to put in this other 40 gallon to get it growing. But let me show you the parents. The parents to those red mosaics. As you can see right there, that is a female with that amazingly gorgeous tail, and there is the male as I get through past the glare here above it. So these guys are just gorgeous, and these guppies easily sell for $40 a pair. No problem whatsoever, because they have those massive Dumbo ears, or not actually ears, we call them ears, but they're actually just their fins. And again, the females have just gorgeous tails. All right, there you have it. There is my Breeding for Profit program. Now granted, when I originally set up this fish room, the idea was not to really sell. I knew eventually I would get excess of them and I would have to try to find a place to do something with them, but it costs a lot to run this place. So I've determined that anytime I can make a little money, it helps things a whole lot, because these things eat a lot of food, suck up a lot of electricity, and drink a lot of water. So be sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know, what in the world are you breeding for profit? What is it that you're doing? What is it you're selling? What are you being successful with? And how well is it going? Or if you've got any questions about what the heck I'm doing, or maybe I didn't make something very clear, be sure to leave those questions down below. Love you guys. Thanks again, and God bless.